name is Maciej. I'm from Poland, basically where I work, and I'm here today to talk to you about boiling out boilerplate, which is removing useless code from our code base. So what is boilerplate? Can anyone tell me what is that? Yeah, like, I can. Okay. Yeah.
It's code that when you write it, you think, okay, there must be a way to automate this, and it's not like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually required by our language we use, which is Java, or by the framework, which is Android SDK, I think. Yeah. We are here all Android developers, right? Yes, a few of you. Cool. Yeah. So most of you are probably iOS developers. A small disclaimer. There was an announcement on Droidcon IT website in news a few days ago. They announced that there will be iOS track, and I was chosen to be one of the speakers for iOS track. So most of the code will be in Objective-C. Okay, I'm joking, but about boilerplate. When I started programming in Objective-C, that was 6 years ago. Yeah, 6 years ago, even before I started doing Android. I noticed a lot of things had to be written for a simple, small thing like property, which is in Java, getter and setter. So for Objective-C, it's better right now. You don't care, I know. But yeah, it's better. It was like that 6 years ago. And in Java, it's less. So it's a big improvement, I think. We like to write less code. But it's still not that good. I don't like writing setters myself. I usually do objects that are immutable. So I replace that with constructor. But that's still the same, basically. So what can we remove from this code in our code base? It's a simple class with only one field. It's usually much worse, but you will see how it looks. For example, there are basically three things I want to talk about. The first is annotation processing API, which is basically what's in Java from Java 6. And in this example, there is auto-value annotation, which makes you not write the field and the constructor, which are generated for you. So it's better, or a bit worse, because there's more characters there. If you had more fields there, it would look better. Like you wouldn't write getter and constructor for each of the field, or you wouldn't write a field. So that's the first thing. I will talk about few libraries that use annotation processing, but that's still not very good. We can go better. We can do better. Another thing I will talk about is Lombok. Whoever heard about this thing? Only a few of you. That's pretty cool, because basically it's a hack on Java. It looks like Java. It's not Java anymore, because that wouldn't compile in Java if we wanted to use constructor and getter. They are there. Our IDE sees them, but it's not plain Java anymore. But it's still boilerplate for me. There are some things you shouldn't write, like semicolons. Who don't like semicolons? Wow, only a few of you. So another thing I will talk about is Groovy, which is a language of choice for me for writing Android apps for 2 months now, and it's cool. It's less characters to write, yeah. But to make it immutable, like in the examples before. I just need to add another annotation, which is not from annotation processing APIs anymore, but it's from Groovy, from abstract syntax tree transformations. So it's a bit different, but it's the same basically. So I could talk here for like 3 more minutes about how cool all this is, but I would like to show you on simple examples how you can save your code and on Monday come back to work and remove all the things you don't like in your code. So let me switch. I have already added some dependencies to my empty project with build Gradle. So I will talk about butter knife. I will talk about Lombok, which I already mentioned. And probably most of you know what is parcelable in Android. Who doesn't? Yeah, there's a few of you. So it's a thing for serializing your classes in an efficient way. In Java, plain Java, we have serializable, which will basically use reflection to do serialization. In Android, we need make it a bit faster for the user to have better experience. So there is parcelable, but it's still a lot of boilerplate. We will see in a moment. And at the end, there will be Groovy. So let me start by writing a simple class. Let's make it activity, because we all write activities. Who doesn't write activities? Nobody. Cool. So I'm in the right place. Let's do something here. Okay, so the first thing you do when you write activity is create a layout for it, right? Looks good. Let's create a simple layout. There won't be much there. I think 2 fields will be enough. This is boilerplate I cannot help you with. In XML you just write a lot of things. I will add IDs to these things. And here too. Okay, looks cool. Bye. Okay, so we have a simple app. We can run it, or we cannot, because I didn't add the activity to manifest. More boilerplate. This should be simple. Yeah, that's it. And if I run it, it should appear here. Who doesn't know how it will look like if I run it? It runs and runs. It's usually faster. No. Yes. Okay. And here it is. Button without text and text without text. Cool. So let's go back to the activity. So we want the application to do something. Let's make it simple. Let's make it the text view will show some text when I click a button. things and add some fields. It's text view, yeah. How does it work? What do I do to add some action to a button? I write more boilerplate, right? We are here to write more boilerplate. Can you all see it? No. Let's not add more code here. Let's extract the methods. Yeah. And the text view should have some text. Simple, 2 fields and like 30 lines of code, even more, because I shouldn't do that. Yay! But it doesn't look right. If you add like 20 fields or controls there, it won't be bad. It will be bad. So there is this butter knife thing. You can inject things that are there, and all the code, I think it's not necessary for it to work. We just need to add some simple annotations. Cool. I don't think we need a button here. We can add on click for the button directly. And all the JSR 269 or annotation processing APIs require you not to use private fields, because it's a code that is generated next to your classes in the same package, and for private fields they wouldn't have access to it. So I will have to skip the private part. More boilerplate out, and it probably runs and works the same way with.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
How come your emulator runs so fast?
It's Genymotion. It's a Genymotion. It's not emulator from Android SDK, so it's better. If you never heard of it, I suggest you download it before removing the boilerplate from your code on Maciej. So it still works. It's nice. So next thing in our build Gradle will be Lombok. I already said it's a big hack, but I really love it. I used it before I started using Groovy for over a year. So let's make a simple class. Name it user or whatever. We have a full name, and I don't know. We can add that user is an admin or not. So that's a simple class. It should look like this, but with Java, no. I like immutable objects, so I always make private final fields twice, and it won't compile, so I have to add constructor. And also I need to add getters. And it's usually okay or necessary to add also equals hashcode. Click a few times and a nice implementation that works will appear. And for debugging, you usually have like toString also. So that's cool. That's a lot of code that is not necessarily important to our business. So I claim that adding this will be much better than adding this. Looks better. I would also remove this. and it's, oops, sorry, it's the same code that was there before. Like, who doesn't believe me that it's the same code? Nobody? Like you believe a stranger? Okay, but I will try to prove it, like with a method, or make it static. So if I do new user, I get auto completion. So I have my name here, and I will be your admin today. And also, yeah, I get, am I an admin? Or anything else, like hash code. It's bold, so it's implemented in this class. If it wasn't, if it was coming from the base class, it would be like all the other methods, like clone, finalize. So I hope you believe in me now. But that's only one annotation from Lombok. There are more, a lot of them. Like, if you had maybe 8 or 10 fields here, which happens, you would have to use constructor with 8 parameters, but there is something more nicer, a builder. So if you want to build a new object of this class that it doesn't have full name but has admin skills, so you would do this. Let's name him hidden admin. Nobody knows who he is. Yeah. There are really a lot of them. Like, I can show you how few. Like, you can add constructors for required fields, so only those which are final, or for all of them, or no args constructor, which is 2 lines, 1 line instead of 2, not too much, but it's still nicer. And there is data. If you like mutable objects, it's like value, but also has setters, so cool. And like, there is also experimental package for things that are not approved by Lombok guys yet, the people who wrote this. But for example, if you use builder, it's nice to have wither, which basically makes new object from your object with only one thing change. For example, hidden admin can or should become something else. Let me there is a bug in the plugin in IntelliJ, so you don't have auto completion sometimes, but they're fixing it. And you have a new me here. Yeah, cool. I also wrote an extension for this library. I won't show you because of the time and because it won't work on Java 8, which I will also show you later. But you have parsellables there for Android, and you have, if you work with shared preferences, there is a nice API for working with shared preferences. If you know what shared preferences are, you basically use keys, which are strings, which I don't like, because if you refactor that, it won't change in one place, and you blow up the application. So let me remove the false compilation errors, and we can go further. Yeah. How cool is Lombok? Cool, start using that. Wow, great. Love you guys. So the next thing, I mentioned parcelable classes. There is another way to remove parcelable boilerplate from your code. Let's make a new simple class. Now. So whenever you have a parcelable class, you have like some data, and you want to pass that to another activity, you need to have parcelable class or object. So to do that, you have to write some code, which is basically ugly. You write to parcel, you create a constructor with parcel as parameter, and you create a creator, like meta create things, which is this creator. It's a lot of unnecessary code that will potentially have bugs if you don't test it. So a better way would be to add parcel here. And this code wouldn't be necessary anymore because maybe this too. Yeah. So basically you will have a new class created for you that has all the implementation. It works on JSR 269 annotation processing. So to work with it, you have an API that uses wrap to wrap your instance of a class as a parcelable. And later, if you want to read it, you use unwrap and you get all your data back. So that's pretty nice, especially if you have 20 fields and lists of parcelables in there. The code would be really nasty. I wrote it, believe me. No, don't believe me. Okay, so that was first fast, simple. And the next thing, it's what I would like to love you the most of all. It's Groovy. Has anyone ever tried to use Groovy here for Android? No? Okay. So I created another source folder with Groovy, and you can create a Groovy class there. So let's start with something simple, like the same class, my new user, which was the user before. It's all there already. You have getters, you have setters, you have constructor. If you want to make it immutable, just add this. Or if you want to make it mutable, just add another thing. There are a lot of annotations in Groovy. I won't talk about them much. I would like to concentrate on another important thing, that is the lack of semicolons. I love that, but no, that's not it. So let's look at our user. It's simple. If you wanted to have like friends in a user, and for example, we have an instance of a user who has some friends, some of them are admins, and we would like to get a list of my friends who are admins. How do you do that in Java? You create a for loop and if statement and save that into some list. Let's maybe create that. Okay, this won't compile anymore because I added fields. So let's use the builder. just to create this is a small nightmare. I will use builder to create an admin. And not non-admin. To make it simple, we won't call them. So to get a list of users that are admins, you create a new list, and for every user in our hidden admin, if this user is admin, we add them to the admin friends. Simple, right? In Groovy, might be a bit simpler. So we have a list of users. Oh, I forgot. I don't have to write public because in Groovy everything is public by default. So just make it static. And let's say we have this user who has friends. I won't create it for you because all the part is important that's in the last lines with for loop and things. So for this user, if we get friends and find all users that are admins, we are already home. There are our admins. 1 line instead of 4. With more complex code, with more conditionals, it gets simpler and simpler in Groovy and more complex in Java. That's why I like it. So
That's just like doing a query inside a database.
yeah, the API is similar to that. It's basically functional programming style. You don't say how you want to do that, but you say what you want in the end.
You don't have to create multiple collections to work a query.
Yeah. So another thing in Groovy I would like to show you is method pointers. Yeah. And so when you're creating on-click listener, you saw I removed a lot of boilerplate with butter knife. In Groovy, butter knife won't work yet. So for a view, if you want to add on-click listener, you just can write something like this, and it works. As a parameter, you get the same view, which is by default called IT or it, which is cool. But there is another thing you can do. You can, like in butter knife, create a function that has the same signature. And you can directly use that method with a strange operator on my foot. Oh, this is static. I thought so. I can remove static here or add static there or do something else, but basically it's like this. This is how my code right now looks for click listener. listeners. I don't use a different library for that. I just write the method and add the handle to the onClick listener. You may notice I didn't use set onClick listener, just onClick listener. In Groovy, properties are generated for you. If you write a field, you will get a getter and setter. Even if you write onClick listener or user full name, user.full name, you will have your code calling setter. So that's sometimes useful if you override the default setter. But it's not that bad in Java. If you want to have a code like this, you can use Java 8 on Android. Can you? Well, not officially, but there is another thing I want to show you. Sorry. I added plugins to my build Gradle. One of them is Retro Lambda, which allows you to use some of the Java 8 features on Android, which is really, really cool. So let's go back to Java code. For example, here. And if I really wanted to have this view, I will create boilerplate again. So even idea suggests to replace it with lambda. I will write a function inside. So if we replace that with lambda, we just get a nicer code. So I hope you like it. But if we had the view there, we could even replace it with method reference like in Groovy, but with 2 columns instead of like strange operator getting address of the method. Yeah. So who will use retro lambda? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Cool. So more into lambda. Okay. Yeah. So that's basically all I wanted to share with you in code. And well, I asked you a lot of questions already, so thanks.